today. So potentially our most requested video ever, at least in the last couple of months. And it is of course going to be an email design masterclass. We're going to be showing you everything from the principles of design, from the actual tools that we use, how to become something of a designer yourself in the process. And of course the main thing, making sure that you can increase your click-through rates, do that while increasing your brand perception and also increasing revenue above all. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here you can see two Connors, Kensington Media House. You can see we've done some cool stuff in the last few years for some cool brands. You can see us, some more of our links below. And then of course you have our 3x weekly newsletter. Definitely join there for free guides better than anyone else's paid stuff. Pretty simple. And yeah, we'll send more guides like this right to your email. So first thing with Design 101, the first thing we're actually going to run you through is the tool that we use. So the main tool that we use at our agency for design is really Figma. Now we use the Adobe Creative Suite as well. We use Adobe XD, we use Illustrator, we use Photoshop. But in terms of laying things out and making things as simple as possible for ourselves, Figma is absolutely incredible, right? It's really good for laying out emails, really good for laying out wireframes, really good for setting up the structure of an email so that it converts. So if you combine that with actual good design skills as well, you can set up your templates in Figma in a position where you can always make your emails convert, just from a structure perspective, right? I would advise you, Canva's a pretty good tool as well. I think that's probably an elephant in the room somewhat, why not use Canva? And you definitely can use Canva, at least for certain design elements. It definitely is a little bit more difficult in Canva to output emails which are really professional, right? If you're looking to generate some of the emails that I'm going to be showing you here in just a second from Canva, it's going to be nigh on impossible. I think you're going to need to use a mix, really, particularly if you're a multi-8 figure brand, especially if you're a 9-figure brand. I wouldn't say there are many 9-figure brands out there using Canva. Really what you want to do is use the Adobe Suite, use that for all of your design elements and for creating kind of, the specific elements that go into the design, but then for laying things out and, kind of collaborating with your team, Figma is going to be your best bet, right? So another thing as well, I know a lot of people who watch these videos are email marketers and other email marketing agencies looking to kind of continuously improve as well. So if you're not using Figma for your clients, I highly recommend it from that collaboration point of view, because you can just make edits in real time and keep things going, keep production, ahead of speed all the time, right? So this is Figma here. You can click this link and you can open this up and you can take a wee look. That's going to open up all of my files because I'm currently signed in, as I always am. And yeah, I use the desktop app more than anything, but I'm actually going to be designing an email for a brand that you guys know towards the end of this video, in Figma on desktop, right? So quick Figma overview as well for you guys. What is Figma? Web-based collaborative tool. The main thing is the intuitive interface, and it's also like cloud-based. So you can basically get all of your clients, or you can get other people in your team, and you can basically get everything, you can get everyone working together. It is also near foolproof to use, right? It's super, super simple to use. And yeah, it's probably my favorite design tool I've used because, as you're about to see in a couple of minutes, I'm not the best designer in the world. I know some stuff, but I'm definitely not the best designer in the world. Why would you use Figma? Super flexible, like you can make custom email layouts, you can make your templates, like I said, with certain structures so that that they're always going to convert. Even if you're not the best designer, you can at least make your job easier for yourself by setting up your emails once in kind of a set and then top up position rather than having to work miracles every single email. Ease of export, you can export things into different file types, PNG, PDF, and of course JPEG. And as well with JPEGs, this is kind of like a niche kind of thing a lot of people don't know, but JPEGs are smaller files than PNGs, and sometimes that has the downside of being lower quality, right? So we can basically export really, really high quality JPEGs from Figma also, so you can keep small files that load quickly in someone's email service. Providers such as Gmail, they also look really good at the same time, even for being small files. And then the main thing is just how collaboration friendly it is. It's so easy to work with your team in Figma here, as you can kind of see. So super simple to use, really easy to pull in reusable components. You can use a lot of cool plugins as well, like generating placeholder text or importing icons. Like you can pull in lorem ipsum text and so on. If you're just making a wireframe for clients, if you actually are a designer watching this as well, you can do that really simply. And then you can easily track changes as well. So you can go back to your old versions and comments and so on, so you can actually track all of your work, much like a Google Doc where you can actually return to old versions of what you've been creating. So that actually makes it so mistakes aren't costly, because when you're designing emails, it's not going to go 100% perfect. You're going to be messing around with things for a little while and trying to figure out, why is this not working exactly the way I want it to? There's always that element of things. And then it integrates really nicely with Photoshop and with any of kind of the Adobe Suite, which is what we use. If you want to use Canva, it integrates with that really nicely as well. So yeah, you can just pull in things like that. A couple of things here of how you can kind of collab with people. This comment feature as well, which is now moved to down here as I have in the image, is really, really cool. And then we can kind of just export files like that too. So start simple. I do want to kind of emphasize that. Make sure that you start simple and just go with a clean layout with consistent fonts and colors, and then just like use grids and so on, right? So we're about to get to a point where I'm going to design an email, but I just want to show you guys first, what are we actually looking to achieve with design? What are the principles of good design for e-commerce email marketing? What actually goes into making good emails? How can we set ourselves up in a position where every email we make is at least decent, at the very least, so that we're doing well from a structure perspective. So first thing, focus on a clear visual hierarchy. You want to be able to just follow all the way down the email. You almost want the viewer's eyes to just be able to flow down the email and everything to follow really naturally. You don't want things to be heavy on the eye and kind of make it kind of effortful. You want to make it effortless for them to be able to go down the email. So everything, your primary message needs to stand out immediately. People are really going to just glean that from the email. They're not going to remember everything that you wrote, so you need to make sure that primary message stands out immediately, whether it's their welcome discount, whether it's a new product release or whatever it is. Whatever email you are sending, that first primary message needs to stand out, and needs to stand out right away. Subheadline supporting text, just use smaller fonts for supporting details. Don't make the email overcrowded. I think a lot of brands actually do this, especially this Black Friday con. I've been looking at a lot of emails in my inbox from different brands, and yeah, kind of a lot of crowded emails. Call to action visibility, these need to be prominent and actionable. This will kind of depend a little bit. We're actually gonna be making an email for a fashion brand where you kind of wouldn't really do this exactly, but if you're kind of more in the supplement space, or you're more in other spaces where it's not so much a case of just showing off clothes and kind of showing off the fashion and kind of aesthetic, then yeah, just make these as prominent as possible, like probably more prominent than you would ever really think. Product placement, just make everything clear with the products. Don't crowd the product space. Optimize for mobile, make sure everything's good for mobile first. Most people read on their mobile phone. A lot of people think about this with mobile traffic to their website, but a lot of people don't think about this with mobile emails. So just make sure that CTAs have enough spacing around them. If you need to put all of your CTAs as images, that'll actually make it so things are the right size and kind of scale up and scale down effectively. Vertical layouts, same thing. So just make sure things don't get kind of compacted in the way, and just make sure it looks good. Brand consistency, just make sure you set up like templates for your brand, so same colors, same fonts, same typography, all of that kind of stuff, same transitions even within the emails, just so you develop your own house style and people know it's you. Personalization, we'll kind of get into that shortly. And then for white space, we'll show you with the email I'm about to design. I'm actually kind of a little bit nervous for it in terms of how it's going to turn out, because it's for a fashion brand, for my favorite fashion brand ever actually, and it's going to need to have a lot of breathing room. So we'll just see how we can effectively do that. CTAs, just make sure that these are pretty simple and action oriented. Make sure that we're using compressed images like we spoke about. Probably steer away from PNGs, at least for the hero image, as much as possible, and just make sure that you're using JPEGs. If you are using a PNG, and let's say you're using a software that's kind of difficult to export in anything but a PNG, there is a website here I will show you, which is called, oopsie, I will type it in here. It is called squoosh.app. So you can just go here, squoosh.app, and then you can pull in your PNG and it will actually turn it into a high quality JPEG, and it'll compress the image 60 to 90% in terms of size, and it'll maintain most of the quality, right? Final thing, visual appeal, just make sure visual emotional appeal, make sure these are factored in, and just make sure that things are aligned, right? So first thing, the number one pitfall to avoid, we've busted out the bell curve meme again, right? So prettiness does not equal conversions. I really want to get this into people's head, especially if you're in like the consumable space or your direct response brand or whatever it is. An ugly email that is easy to click will beat a pretty email that is not easy to click any day of the week and twice on Sundays, right? So here we have, I put a CTA above the fold and had good email structure on both ends, and we have this person said, but I remade every section and use unique dividers to make the email flow and 4 paragraphs of copy. The principles are more important. Structuring the email to convert is far more important than getting into fancy details and spending a lot of time there. So final kind of thing that we'll go into before we go into designing is this, right? We're going to go through a couple of images. So this is an example of an email that's structured well. We have lots of space. We have one clear theme that's really visible. We have a call to action above the fold. This means before someone has to scroll, right? So this call to action is nice and high. And then we have nice clean copy that conveys the main message of the email and kind of shows clear product images. We have lots of space here, and then we just show benefits of our product and how it can help. And we get one final CTA that hasn't really exported properly, but yeah, the text is a lot smaller there. Pretty nice email on the whole, right? Here we have a really, really nice email as well. I should just kind of get my zooming correct here. You can see a call to action nice and high. That's really, really important in your emails. So you have a call to action nice and high. This makes the email as easy to click as humanly possible. And you can see this coming into kind of summer and just saying, in a typically, tough time to sell radiators in this brand's case, you can see here's a sales argument as to why you should buy in summer, right? So we come down here, lots of space with the copy, you know, very clear headings, you know exactly what the theme of the email is in one go like that. And then we go through benefits and we go to kind of sell our products, and then a nice big clear call to action at the end, along with a lot of social proof for the brand here, right? So then I'm going to show you some emails that, you know, this is not to slate these brands, but these were some emails I picked up on mill.com. And you know, as you can kind of see here, right, like this email, let me zoom back out, you can see it's not too bad. I mean, like this definitely gives, you know, gives the main kind of message of the email, you know, that Black Friday is coming soon, or sorry, Black Friday is ending soon, I should say. But here, it's not so easy to click. You know, this hero section is probably a bit long. This is one thing, it's actually why I wanted to show you guys a fashion email, because sometimes in fashion, it can be a little bit harder to make those shorter hero sections while not putting text and buttons over the clothing, because in fashion, you really just want to show off the products. It's not this case of using aggressive copy or anything like that. It's more so a visual aesthetic game. But here, it's, you know, it's not a bad email, but it's definitely not the most clickable. As you can see, it's like one big image. And then, you know, the visual hierarchy is a little bit off. You know, it goes from big to small to big in terms of text, and then kind of a smaller button. And then here is actually just kind of like a little bit difficult to read, right? Like the message of, you know, this is the name of the brand, Jean Premier. You just notice the brand name. You don't actually notice the message, which is actually saying that during this Black Friday, they have 15% off everything. Here, you know, the visual hierarchy, and this isn't too clickable. You know, there's no button until about here, and the button's quite small, and it's quite missable, actually, if you were scrolling through here. So for Jean Premier, I would say that this is, you know, not their best, you know, so to speak. But yeah, this is just like what the example of what a good email will look like, and then what a not so good email will look like. So what we're going to do now, I'm actually going to jump into Figma. I'm going to design an email live for a brand that you will all know. So let's get over here. So the brand that I'm going to be designing for, as you can see here, is going to be none other than Ralph Lauren, right? This is a little bit difficult because a lot of the principles of conversion go kind of out the window when it comes to fashion, right? As in, you don't want to be going super aggressive with the design. You don't want everything being really loud. A call to action really high above the fold can be, I don't know, it can look a little bit jarring and kind of not fashion-like. So within fashion, you're kind of walking a tightrope in general, but a lot of the people who've you know, requested certain videos, or a lot of the people who've come through and actually become clients from these YouTube videos, a lot of them are actually in the fashion space or in clothing in one way or another. So I think that kind of relates to a lot of my audience here in a bit. So I just said that we would do an email for a fashion brand and make things nice and clear. What we're going to do, so the first thing that we're going to do when we come into Figma, right? So you see all of these things here. You can see I can move around here. I have this hand tool, I have scale. And then here I can make different sections, right? So I can just make like a section here, and then we have kind of a frame to put in our email. Let me actually make this nice and long. Okay, cool. So we have our section here, and within this section, we're gonna make our email, right? So first thing I'm gonna do is just gonna make a rectangle. This is gonna be our header section. And then what I wanna do in this, I'm just gonna put this at 600 because the width of an email is 600. And then I'm gonna zoom in here. So this thing is actually, you know, big enough. And then here, typical height section for here, let's go like 120 megapixels. And yeah, I'm actually gonna put in with this section, what color is that? That's D9, D9, D9. I actually might do that for the section and then turn this into white. So we'll go D9, 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 and then we'll go here for the section, and then we're gonna turn this into white so it kind of stands out a little bit more and kind of is a little bit more of that Ralph Lauren aesthetic. We are gonna use a white background. And what I'm gonna do briefly here, you know, we'll teleport forward in the video so you guys don't have to wait, is I will just find some design elements that I can use here. I'll find something I can use for a hero image. I'll find something I can use in terms of a logo that I can put into the top of this email. And then yeah, we'll go from there, and we'll start to kind of fashion this email and make it in terms of the buttons and so on, so it can be good to go. So I will be back in just a moment. Okay, so we are back. We have a little logo here. We have a hero image that I think could look like a general welcome series because it's unisex. We're just gonna do a quick 10% code here and see how this looks. So we will take our logo here for Ralph Lauren. I think that looks good, although it's a little bit crowded. I would probably do this as a bit higher. Let's see, like 160. You can see here, right, we're going to align these, and we're going to basically have everything at 600 pixels wide. I actually think that looks kind of clean in the top. I think this email could actually turn out quite good, even though I'm not the best designer in the world, self-admittedly. And here, so we have our first problem, right, which is that as you've seen for all of those emails that are designed nicely, you have a call to action above the fold. You have a call to action that's nice and visible. You have a headline that's very clear. And right here, what we see is there's a problem with this image is that we don't really have any space above here to put anything. You know, we could try and, you know, come onto the image and make it smaller, but look at what happens there, you know, so we'll just go Command Z, get that back to where it needs to be. You know, this image I think looks really clean, but what we need to do is create some space here so that we can actually put in a headline, we can put in a call to action. What I'm gonna do here is with this kind of circle to square that we have, I'm actually gonna do something just because this gradient is kind of like, it looks like a stained background if you can kind of see, right? Like it's not like one solid color behind. But fortunately for us, when we go to transition out of this into the body copy section, this is actually like a solid color here. So what I'm actually gonna do, right, we're gonna pull out our trusty rectangle tool, click that, and then we're just gonna go here, and I'm gonna probably just make like a small one. So that's 602, let me just make this 600. Okay, so that looks okay. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just drag this down here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a gradient here just to fade this property and just so I can keep this at kind of more of a local level. I might change how tall this is, to be fair, but you know, the height will change. But yeah, that'll be about it. So what we're just gonna do, we'll come in here with this gradient. Let's go here. We're just gonna make this a little bit. Let me just zoom in here. So with your gradient, right, you'd wanna kind of turn this. So here, there we go. So I can kind of get this, I can kind of get this right. And then here, I'm just gonna pull in a second color just so this fades in kind of nicely into the bottom color here. So this is gonna go kind of lighter, or kind of darker into lighter, and then we're gonna go down kind of light, light, light there again. So I'm just gonna get another color here. What I'm gonna use is just a little tool here called Colorzilla, and I will go pick color from page, and then I will find the exact color that this is meant to be on the page. Here, actually that will need to be 100, so I'll just need to look hard. And then yeah, we're kind of getting this to come together. So here as well, just to go with this darker color, you put that in there, and then you can kind of see this gradient is actually looking half decent. So yeah, we're just gonna need to fade that in. Why is that not looking right? Right, so these are kind of the points we look at where we don't want this to be like a hard kind of gradient here. So what I'm actually gonna do, I might change the angle of this because sometimes it's not actually the fading in color. What's happening is that like the angle sometimes when this background, because it's not a solid color, is actually what you need to change. So I'm going to change that right now. Let me change in here and I will just move that up. So what I think is going wrong here is that when we're fading in from two colors, it's basically making this kind of harsh, right? It's making the transition just kind of look quite obvious to me. And so what we're actually just going to go in and do here, we'll just go in and add an extra color here. And we're just gonna like change the angle somewhat. We put that like 160. And what I'll just show you with this final color down here is we will just change things up a little bit so I can kind of pull in a little bit more slightly. And when it comes from this angle, when you do three colors like this, kind of three stops within the gradient, you can move the angle a little bit. I think we can make this look a bit smoother. So I know we're emphasizing a lot on the gradient here, but it is really, really important that the email flows in one piece. Okay, so we have this gone in here. This now looks like it's faded in a little bit more. And yeah, I'm like pretty happy here as we can see with this. Just need to get a text section going, and I'm just gonna like pull this here and I will drop this. Let's just go welcome, and we'll find the font here in just a second. It's gonna work for us. Let me just drag this out so it'll be wide enough, and then I'll pull this over here, and it's not letting me do that. So what I'm just gonna do is I'm gonna pull this and just gonna put it on top of this. So then on the side, at least, it will enable me to do that. So what I need to do really quickly is go and find the fonts, something roughly that I can use that's like a Google font that we can use for Ralph Lauren here, and then we can download their fonts and then we can use it from there. So what I have done is I've found a font that I think looks like pretty similar to Ralph Lauren's. This is called Dido. It is an Adobe font. For your fonts, ideally, you would ideally have them be like Google fonts or have them be Adobe fonts. For that reason, they're like universal. So here, I think enjoy 10% off. I'm just gonna go copy, and then I'm just gonna drag this up here. I'm gonna make this instead of, what is that at 65? Let's make this like 35, see what that does. Let's say a season of giving. How does that look? I feel that is a little bit big. Let's go 32. I like 32, looks good. Now, the other thing that we're gonna have to add in here is a button. So what you can see here is that we have the main design principle working here, right? Like we have like the main message of the email, very understandable just from the get-go. The second someone opens the email, they understand what's going on here. But right now we need a button because we need to have this be super clickable. Let me go here. I'm gonna go rectangle. I'll put this rectangle above the frame, and this rectangle can go here. So I can move it above here. Cool, so what I'll do with this, so I'll maybe make this like 180 wide. How would that look? I think that could be okay. Make it like 180 and 50. That is looking okay. I think that can go here. And then just what I want to do, I don't want this to be like super clear. So okay, so it'll ask me for some text here. I'll just put this as like shop now. That's gonna have to be smaller. It's probably gonna have to be like 20. Let's pull this in here. Cool, so we've got that here. What we can just do now is just for the corner radius, we'll probably make this like 60, and that actually looks okay. I can go 60. Then just for the fill, I'm actually just gonna make this translucent, and then I'm gonna give it kind of an outline here, which we're just gonna do with the stroke effect. And pretty much that's quickly come together and actually looks okay. I feel like I would maybe go for, this is gonna be called a serif font, essentially fancy looking fonts that kind of have little ornaments around here where, you know, you see details essentially to the font. You know, that's a serif font. Sans serif, meaning without serif. That is gonna be like a more basic, robotic, straight kind of shooter looking font. I actually feel like this is okay in fashion, but I probably would use a sans serif. Let me see here. I'd probably use, let's see how Helvetica would look with that. I think, no, that doesn't look right at all. Let's see here, bricolage grotesque. I like that. Now, that to me looks a lot better. This kind of stands out a lot more. This is another thing you can do with typography. Generally, with the fonts that you use for your brand, you will have, you know, two fonts essentially, really two main fonts that you use for your brand. If one's a serif and one's a sans serif, it essentially makes things easier to read, like looking on your eye, right? So we'll remember that's bricolage grotesque. Now, watch this. Just look how heavy this is on your eyes. Look, when it goes to Dido, it doesn't stand out or anything like that. But then when we go back to our bricolage grotesque, it stands out a lot more because you have the serif and then you have the sans serif. It just creates kind of contrast within the email and makes it easier to read as a result. Green light, we're looking okay here. Now it's time to move on to the next section of our email. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, classic, is we're gonna use our rectangling tool. We're just gonna bring that here. Let's see how this looks. I'm gonna put this at 600 once again, as you guys know. And then we're just gonna go with the fill and we'll put this as that color and see how that looks. It doesn't flow the way I want it to, so I will just go with Colorzilla once more, because I know this looks like a solid color, but I just need to figure out what it actually is. So we'll go pick color from page. Colorzilla, one of the best tools you will ever find out there. DFD 1C4, and okay, I like that. That looks good for me. So I'm gonna pull this down here. Let's just pull this section down as much as it needs to be. And I'm actually gonna do a rectangle within a rectangle, right? So I'm actually gonna do for the text section for a fashion email here, I'm gonna make it a white text block, and then I'm gonna put black text within that white text block, right? So we're gonna do another rectangle here. Just a sec, I'll show you how that looks. Trusty rectangle tool, we will go with, make that white. Okay, that's looking better. And I feel like, what if that's like a cool 500? How would that look? Yeah, I think that looks a lot better actually. So I'll move this down here. We'll see how much text that we'll put in here. Maybe we'll go like 500 by 550. Cool, that looks good to me. And then I'm just gonna find some lorem ipsum text from the internet. We're just gonna put that in there for the time being, because this is just gonna be about the design. Okay, so we found some lorem ipsum text. We have our font in here, which is gonna be our bricolage grotesque. And I'm not gonna lie, I think this is actually turning out half okay, given what I thought this would look like not too long ago. So yeah, I actually think that looks kind of good, if I may say so myself. So now, just for sake of tidiness, what I'm actually gonna do is just gonna drag this up here so it kind of flows in one section, okay? Then what I'm gonna do is just make another rectangle. There's a reason for this. It's just that when you're exporting this, it's a lot cleaner to do it this way. Let me just grab that here with 597 with 600. And we're just gonna use this as kind of a breaker of sorts, right? So we get that background color again, DFD 1C4. And then when we come in here, we're just gonna have this be a breaker that takes up text, okay? So the reason that this is gonna be easier is that if we're exporting this as another image, we just wanna use smaller files, right? We don't wanna be importing massive images. And then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use that Dido font. I'm just gonna drag that here for text. What font was I using there? Or sorry, what font size? That's 65. Oh, let me grab that Dido text again, 65. I'll put this in like, I don't know, I'll put this in like 50 favorites. I'll use this in American English as much as it pains me. And I'll move that here. That looks good around there. So some of our favorites would maybe make this a little bit shorter. Maybe if I make this like 160 didn't really change that. What if I go 150? Yeah, I prefer that around there. And then, oh, Command Z, we'll just grab our text here and then just move that into the middle. And yeah, I think that's actually looking pretty good now. So we're gonna go in here, we're gonna find a few product suggestions, and we're just gonna pull those in. So I'm on the Ralph Lauren website. We're just gonna find a couple of product images that look pretty cool here. Ideally ones that have models in them. We see once again that infamous background that almost foiled me with the gradient style. I think some of these look pretty good. What I want to do just to make this unisex, so I'm going to find some images that we can actually use that have both a male and a female model in there, and then we can go from there. Okay, so we are back and we have found 3 images which seem to fit the bill. So we've got this one in here, which shows off that hoodie. These ones here which show off a couple of t-shirts, and here we got kind of like this sort of nice, almost like mesh or like French terry kind of style shirts here, which I think are pretty cool. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make a section here, and we're gonna go image text, text image, image text, text image, right? So we're just gonna go here, we'll go with this kind of moved over onto the left. I think this can kind of move in around here or so, and then kind of we'll have the next layout, which will be this frame, and then we will kind of have this be, you know, the next sort of frame there as well, right? So these are laid out kind of properly to the point where, you know, we can put text here, text here, text here, and they'll look kind of nice. So we will go back, we'll move that image out of there, and we'll go back to our famous rectangle tool, and we will make this will need to be taller than that image, right? So it'll have to be like, get that over to like 450 potentially. You can see here as well, you have to kind of do a lot of playing around with these just to get them to look right. So here, I'm gonna have to just take my color here, I'll just take that, go with the fill, and here, maybe I'll go at like 600. And then I will go with here, I think 450 should probably do us. This can just move up here, and then we'll see how this comes into here. And I'll just go bring to front. And then, I think that looks good. I'll go here, Command C and V, and we'll go copy, move that to like here. There we go. And then we'll go with here, we'll just go bring to front. And then finally, we will go and we'll do this once more. And we will grab this, and we will go and we'll just bring this to front so we can kind of see if everything is, you know, lining up properly. So that will need to alignment. Let's just make sure these are fully aligned. Yeah, so there's 41 gap between each one. Cool, perfect. So now what we're gonna do with these is we're gonna add some text, and then we're gonna add a little button here as well. So we can see we got a nice little section here, and this is starting to flow quite nicely as well. So I will add some text here. This is called a fleece hoodie. Then I'll add some text for the other one. Go in here, classic fit polo sports jersey t-shirt. I'll fix this in just a second. I'm just pulling in these names from the site. Then I'll come in here, original fit mesh polo shirt. Right now I have a little bit of a mess to fix up here, and that I need to get these to kind of fit properly. But other than that, I think they actually look okay. This one, that looks good. Let's just click around here just to make sure that this is aligned. Cool, and they all look to be aligned. What we'll do now is just one more text section, which is just gonna be body text. And we'll pull this in here, and we'll add all this text. Okay, so I've pulled in this description. I kept everything in this Dido font. I actually think this looks okay. The last thing that's missing here is a button. So I'm just gonna take out my rectangular tool. We're just gonna drop this button in here just inside the section. This gives us our little button here. I'm just gonna play around with the rounding here for a second, then I'll put some text over this. You can kind of see here, so what I did, like this color, and then, you know, we kept this with straight edges here. It is 204 high, and then it is 36, or 204 wide in terms of pixels, and then 36 high. I actually think this looks pretty okay. What I'll do now is I'll do that for the other 2 product sections, and we can see how we go. Okay, cool. I think I have these aligned properly, and I think they actually look okay. So this product section is now successfully put into the email. I kind of need to get rid of the frame 4 section, but other than that, you know, here it's going to give me something and say frame above. But yeah, I actually think we're looking okay here. It's not going to export with that frame on there, thankfully, you know, at least with the text on there. But yeah, I think it looks pretty decent overall. Final thing that we're going to pull in right now is just one more text section. I'm literally just going to go, one more text section. Well, yeah, we are going to pull in text, but I'm just going to put in one more rectangle here. I'm just going to put this once again at our famous 600 pixels wide. And then here, let me just see how tall that other one was. So that was about 550. Okay, so we'll go here, and we will go with this, and we'll go to 550. I'll go in here, fill this in with white, and yeah, I think that looks pretty decent. We'll come in here, and now this time with this text section, what we're going to do is we're going to put this into, you know, lorem ipsum. We're just going to put this into a bigger font. We'll put this into like 30, and we're just going to change the font back to our bricolage grotesque from earlier. I'm just gonna copy in some example text here. Cool, I think that actually looks all right. I think so. Let me just align this a little bit more and see. I think just because there's, you know, the text looks a little bit big, I think what I'm actually just gonna have to do is just make this a little longer, maybe make it like 580 and just see how that does. I'm pretty happy with how that looks right now, right about there. Pretty happy with how that looks. We're gonna go one more rectangle here. I'm just gonna make this built out for the button sections. So I'm just gonna go here 160, and then here we'll go into, I'm actually just gonna copy one of these buttons that we've made, and I will pull this over here. Go here, I'm gonna go bring to front, there we go. I think that actually looks pretty good. I'm gonna move this up a tad, maybe move this up a tad too, and then boom, I actually think that looks decent. Perfect. Okay, so final thing that we need to make here is just a quick little footer. We're just gonna make one more rectangle here in Figma, so our famous rectangle tool, and then we'll be good to go. So just gonna draw this here as well, and then what I'm gonna do, just put in the fill, make this 600 pixels wide as usual. I'll put in the fill. The only thing we're gonna do is take the logo from the top here, and then what I'm gonna do is put in Ralph Lauren's address, and then we should be good to go, and we'll see how that looks in just a second. And boom, there it is. We might do one little section here, which will just say if you wanna not receive these emails in future, you can unsubscribe. And that will essentially be it. I will do that and I'll make it this background color here. One moment. We'll put that in here, and then I'll put in my little bit of text, and boom, we are done. That is essentially how we're gonna do things in Figma. Let's take a little look at this email. We'll go through it again from top to bottom. We see the header here, nice call to action above the fold. Actually looks pretty decent if I do say so myself. And we can see here, body here, not doing too badly. And yeah, it all just kind of looks and flows into one another here quite nicely. So that is essentially the entire design guide. Like we said, you can join our newsletter below for more guides just like this, 3 per week. You'll get some really, really good emails in there, which will have better free guides than anyone else has paid. Here you can connect with us down below on all of these social media platforms. And yeah, if you need more help, or you're doing at least 100K a month in direct to consumer revenue, you can check us out here. This is part of our broader email marketing series we have on the channel. We have a full email marketing course, which is really exhaustive, that has everything you could ever want to know about email. If you want to check that out, you can click right here, and I will see you in the next video.